All right, it is 6:40 and I'm calling to order the September meeting of the Port and Port Environment Sustainability meeting. Again at 6:40. I'll do a quick welcome to those here and do the roll call. I have an excused absence from Pat Nave. Gwendolyn Henry, are you here? You're present.
Yes, I am here.
Jason Herring, are you present?
I am present and accounted for.
Okay, if anybody sees on the attendee anybody else coming in, I'm doing this from a hotel on a laptop, so I don't have as good a viewing as I normally do.
There are no attendants.
But thank you for being here for our first online version of this. I'm glad we can meet this way. I know it makes it easier for some of us when we have this option. And maybe we'll have some more members of the public come. I did encourage my students. I gave them the link saying, hey, if you want to find out how city government works, come watch your professor try to do a meeting and do good. So there may be some students coming in later. They don't get credit for it. So I can skip that for our high school students. And then does anybody have a general public comment on a non-agenda item? You'll see I made the agenda really big, and I'm trying to learn from Jason and Diane by looking at other things there. So if we want to discuss anything and take action on it, we've got a lot of things to pick, but maybe there was something I didn't think of or that has just come up you'd like to comment on that's not agendized.
Do you have the peace event on the agenda?
One version did. Let's see if they kind of, yeah, it is on there. Yep. Peace.
All right, so we can discuss that. But it is coming up on the 21st, and we are all very much encouraged to participate in that. Of course, our esteemed former board member and longtime member of the Sustainability Committee, as well as the Youth and Outreach, Darlene Zavalny, spearheaded that. She's good friends with Jane Goodall. They brought it to San Pedro, and yeah, it's big stuff. And we will have our canopy there, so we really should represent as the environmental committee.
And seeing I'm the holder of the canopy, John Berber has made it very clear I need to be there at 8 o'clock. So I don't know if I can stay the whole time. I'll probably bring it. I'll probably come back a little bit later. But I'm personally super excited to see Jane and see the peace doves and participate in that.
Yeah.
Anything, Jason? Anything there? Or I'll just see if there's any feedback you have. Kind of trying to make sure everybody can be included. If they have things they wanted to report out on that's of interest to this committee. So anything from you, Jason?
Not probably for this committee, maybe more for the planning and land use. I have some things, but probably more appropriate there.
Okay.
And for CFAC, I mean, this is still not agendized. So the Community Forestry Advisory Committee, I'm a full-fledged member. There are a lot of environmentally motivated things that are coming through there. And Jason, I really should be trying to attend planning and land use meetings. A lot of it is connected to a lot of topics that planning and land use works on. So I really have to make more effort with that. But
and those are hybrid, right? So they're relatively easy to attend, even if you can't get there in person. So I think it's a really good idea. I found it very helpful to.
Yeah.
These two committees are very synergistic.
Yes, and but the one thing that is coming up right now, which is very environmentally related, is that Tim McOsker has pretty much been kind of there's a lot of focus on him as an environmentally conscious council member. Since Paul Koretz has left, he termed out. There are a lot of groups that are looking for somebody as a standard bearer and a person to bring forward motions and bring the attention back to this current mayor of a lot of things that were begun with the Green New Deal, if you recall that, with Mayor Garcetti. It was also called the Green Plan, and a lot of other things. But there was a department that was formed during that tenure called the Department of Biodiversity, within which falls under the Department of Sanitation. And there are some really amazing environmental scientists who are part of the very small department. Their goal and their directive was to help the city of Los Angeles to compile the data which says all of the plant and life forms that exist within the city of Los Angeles. Of course, the city of Los Angeles was recognized as one of the 30 cities across the globe that has the highest amount of biodiversity. It's an urban, biodiverse bonanza here. And the city of Los Angeles had promised to preserve that biodiversity. Now, I don't know how we're doing on that. As that promise had been made, there's been a constant loss of our forest canopy, our urban canopy, both in the parks as well as on the streets. And Jason, as you well know, there have been a lot of bills that have come through the state and through a lot of other things that have created a free-for-all on starting ADUs on properties all through Los Angeles, which means that the forest, the trees that are on private property get chopped down very quickly without any EIRs or anything of that nature. There's a constant battle, and the Department of Biodiversity wants to bring more attention to this and to the city's overall overarching need to be an ambassador for the rest of the nation and be a standard bearer that this place is working towards 2030 goals, 2050 goals, and committed to maintaining its green space and actually excelling in expanding biodiversity and ensuring that the migratory animals and the ones that exist here continue to have a place in the ecosystem. The Santa Monica Mountains, of course, the whole P22 thing, it's actually considered the most endangered wild space in Los Angeles and in California. So there's a lot of urgency in bringing Karen Bass's attention to it. And so I'm hoping that we can all encourage Tim towards being the standard bearer for, and the person who leads the message in that. So anyway, too much time, sorry.
Good.
Oh,
All right, so encourage our council member to be a standard bearer in environmental issues. Thank you for that. Update by Jason.
well, just to kind of go on with that, like I've been on planning and land use forever, and there's been a San Pedro greening plan. There's been all these tree initiatives. I've not seen a single damn tree planted from any of those things.
Yeah.
None of them in Peck Park, and I see Peck Park almost every day. None in my neighborhood. There's been no tree planting. My neighborhood has a dearth of trees, and adjacent neighborhoods do, just in the city easement. I mean, I'm not talking about people's backyards where ADUs might be losing them, but on the spaces that we can easily put them in, I've not seen a single damn tree planted. And I don't see anything planted downtown or adjacent to downtown, nothing. And, all these greening plant talk is poppycock as far as I'm concerned so far, because no one's executed on anything. And I remember stories from years ago, like they had all these trees and they all died because they didn't know where to put them. And I was begging people to get trees, and there's plenty of streets here. There's all around Peck Park and in Peck Park needs trees, and you could put a lot of trees in there. There's a whole lot of open space that could use canopy. there are streets or where they have easements and just the park where there could easily be trees planted to provide nice shade by the sidewalks. And before you go into the park, none of that's been touched. I mean, where are these trees and why isn't somebody planting them? It's just a myth as far as I'm concerned.
Well, Jason, actually, you and I should have a side topic with discussion about this. That is one of the overreaching messages of every representative on the Community Forestry Advisory Committee. Now, one thing that is really, really hit hard is that in the time of, first, I will tell you that there are places that are getting trees, but it's only through committed community work with their council member and getting a grant and working with the departments within the city and within the county in order to create a green space that the community has identified and said, we're going to do this, and we are going to get our council member involved, and we are going to get the grant, and we are going to submit for this grant. This happened in Tracy Park's council district just recently. They are now just starting to put it together, but they are actually taking a median, and they're going to be putting in native plants and native trees all up and down this one boulevard. And so it's that kind of action that's happening. But the battle that's happening in the Community Forestry Advisory Committee is that, well, first off, Karen Bass, as you well know, has removed all of the open positions from all of the departments that had open positions. Those are off the table. And I have to honestly say that within the tree planting and the tree care portions of street services and urban forestry, they don't have the staff. They're on a 7-year cycle of coming to any neighborhood and trimming a tree. And at a 7-year cycle of trimming a tree, the trees are being harmed. They break, they are damaged, they fall, because this cycle is unsustainable. With maintaining the urban forest, you maintain healthy trees, you increase their shade canopy, you don't have these losses. And on top of that, there is no one to plant trees and to care for them and to irrigate them. The department, I'm calling it the wrong, the urban forestry department, they're begging for irrigation equipment because the cutouts are too small and they literally have to irrigate them themselves. There's no buy-in with the community to irrigate the trees themselves. They're actually begging for that, where people will go and irrigate the trees as they go.
So what I hear is there's a large problem, and there's support among a majority of stakeholders. So I think we're just looking for, we have the perfect leader in you, Gwen. You know, you're on the committee. So let's work to take action and you know, go forward on this, because we've talked about this a few times before. I think that the time is to act. I don't know if Jason remembers, you know, these details, but I remember a number of these details, and I 100% agree with you. So, yeah, you know, in terms of that, let's try to get this on an agenda in the very near future. Take some action on it.
It just seems like the city says all these things. Oh, we're going to have an urban forest, urban canopy, and all this stuff, and it's just all BS.
Yeah.
It's not happening.
And you know, the departments, there was an individual who came to the last meeting, and you know, there were some honest questions as to how, for example, when there is a development, they tear down all the trees because the equipment has to get to it, or there is a developer who has been asked in the case of a valued species, a species of tree that is indigenous, native to California, there are certain requirements where if you cut down an established tree, you have to plant 4 of the same species someplace else on the property, and you have to ensure their success for 3 years. Well, the constant question, one of the main questions at this time was, well, in that process, are you when there's a bond that the developer is supposed to put up for that tree and for that tree planting, and to get it back and to get it reimbursed, they have to prove that they planted the tree. So the department comes, planning, and the planning department, they see that the trees are planted, they give back the bond, but they do not have a check and follow up to see that those trees are cared for. And there are reports throughout the city, especially in places where there's black oak, manzanita, you name it, where there's all sorts of violations going on. And one of the worst violations that's happening is that before a developer goes into a place, before they even purchase it, the prior owner may raise the entire property and say there are no protected trees on this property, and there is no one to report that there were trees there. There's this constant, it's nuts. And some of those things are being addressed in the new system for developers to apply for points, rewards for being a good environmental developer. There's a whole bunch of things going up in the vegetation and landscaping component of the new system.
And that's where it'd be great for you to be in the planning and land use, right? There's a nexus there, but in the interest of times, we're like 27 minutes in.
Yeah, sorry.
I want to avoid going into the details and stuff. We're not agendized or taking action, but that's like a whole second letter, so definitely you, Jason, anybody wants to bring that forward, let's try to move that into something. I'll give a quick update, and I've provided some attachments there on what was discussed at the Port Neighborhood Council Chamber Presidents meeting. I just got notice that the meeting scheduled for next week has been canceled. We did talk at that meeting about berths 9710 to 109, the container terminal project. They announced, this is now in the past, but on the agenda, somebody might have gone on the free boat tours on Saturday. I think that's always good to let the community know, and that those are ongoing. If anybody, I guess, watches this, there's nobody in the audience, to try to take advantage of that, because I think that's kind of a neat thing that we offer. And then I was hoping to find out next week when the fountain's going to reopen. So that, that does use water. We might have, be pro or con that, but I think a lot of people are excited about the fountain down by the port reopening. So those are some of the highlights there. I appreciate, Gwen, your update on, you gave us some legislative government, especially Department of Forestry updates. Anything else, Gwen or Jason, on that area we should discuss that we've seen coming outside of the couple council files that I put later in the agenda? Okay, I'll move on to, things that people have talked about bringing for action. So under road construction, this is also a little bit at the port meeting. We got a really good report from Lonnie Walsh on the construction for State Road 47. And you can look at the PDF handout there. The concern that I voiced that I think affects our community is we don't know exactly when the Vincent Thomas Bridge is slated to be repaired, and that project has some delays, some detours, and actually will require a bridge closure. So I definitely think as we get more information, we want to discourage lack of coordination between the state and the port, because we'd hate to have the bridge, unavailable for an extra period of time. So something to watch. And one thing I just wanted to share that I asked the port, because I think we're very concerned how long things are shut down, that at least the city of LA does not use performance incentives to try and speed up these projects. Yes, Gwen.
Ray, being one of the advisory committee members, what has he spoken about anything since the last
No.
we sent in our own communications?
you know, I forget if we brought it up. I guess we haven't met for a few months, so probably didn't bring it up in this format. The last conversation, he thought people were leaning towards the full closure. You know, that was the, you know, but not much has happened. So I don't really have any rich information there. I don't know if Jason's heard anything through.
I just heard the leaning towards full closure. I have not heard a final decision.
Yeah, okay.
And so, yeah, they haven't gone through that process yet. And has there been any urging to improve the infrastructure around the port, maybe federal funding, bringing Nanette Barragon into this, to actually improve the entire area for the future, for even after the bridge has been built, that trucks and the corresponding traffic for that they have places to go, that the new reroutes are actually beneficial to the communities.
Well, that's been a constant sore spot, that the port does that and routes these over streets not rated for that level of truck traffic. I'm not sure that federal money should cover that. It seems like it should come from the port.
Yeah, no, I don't, you know, recall seeing any plans for that, though. That, you know, when it gets to something that I've been asked to have our committee consider doing, right, to become more of an advocate. So if there's interest, you know, amongst I'd like to have a majority of stakeholders have us reach out. Like, I just spent 2 days with Alamar Suchi, one of our assembly people who covers my part of San Pedro for related to higher education and neurodiversity. But he actually stayed for a long time, and I didn't push him on the bridge, but try to build a relationship with him. So if we were to invite him, if we were to invite Mike Gibson, you know, Bradford, and then we could look congressionally, you know, I was thinking about our concern from a city perspective on how a state agency like the Department of Transportation really is going to have a big impact. And, you know, I have lost faith, as a lot of my stakeholders have lost faith, and some are now questioning whether we want to, you know, be complicit with a full shutdown if we don't trust that the state and the city entities are working together, and that could lead to, you know, much longer delays where we have no usage. Maybe we're better off struggling with a, you know, a plan where it's open somewhat, even if it's for you, you know, like how long can we, you know, and how will that change San Pedro if we weren't able to have access for years, you know, what the impact is. And to get more trust, I think our elected state officials could actually get the right people in the room paying attention to the fact that I think this is an equity issue, that when it came to the closure for downtown LA, they moved heaven and earth, and that got fixed right away, right? You know, there are other areas where this has been prioritized, and I've not felt that we've received a satisfactory response from that Department of Transportation. In fact, you know, and Ray's shared similar views. It seems like the Western project they're working on, those people aren't even necessarily talking to the bridge, right? So it creates a lot of lack of confidence. And if we'd like to try to organize something for October or November, I'm happy to reach out. No guarantee they would come, but, you know, I think if we put in a request and we ask for our council's members, you know, support as well, we might actually be able to have a more public hearing, which would I'd probably recommend we use Pack Park, because I think there could be a pretty good community turnout. But maybe that's just my idea. You know, a few people thought it'd be a good idea. It would be a fair amount of work, so I don't want to go into this single-handed. And curious, what do you think, Jason? What you think, Gwen?
I had read something about this, or saw some reviews of other infrastructure type projects where they've said generally the economic pain is less if you just do the whole project rather than these half at a time. It's better to, you know, take your medicine and get it over with, as opposed to drag it out. You end up causing more economic displacement than if you were to just get it over with. So I mean,
that's my general thought too. But where I've heard, you know, and I've started to think differently, is that specific to California? You know, like how quickly does this particular agency run? Because that's definitely where I think people were at. But now, if we don't trust that their estimates are accurate, or, you know, like what if they run out of funding? Like how quickly they're going to get this done? I don't know if that changes anything. And the larger issue for the community involvement wasn't just to change the mind. It was just really trying to build true transparency and accountability. Now, Ray will lament that very few, people wrote in and, expressed an opinion. So that gives the state the ability to say, oh, what we're doing is great, right? We sent flyer, we do all these things, and, people must be happy because they're not speaking. And I'm not sure if that's the case. And if we did, promote another event, people would come to and talk to, we might get a different outcome, but maybe not.
Well, to your point that, there was that huge disruption with that pallet fire, which, I mean, literally within days, they got that thing solved. I agree that it seems that there's very little coordination, and it's just a matter of will to get everybody in the room. If that still hasn't been addressed, where the Western project they have not coordinated with the bridge project yet, that would be tremendously concerning. And yeah, all the entities do have to be in the room. And Jason, you're absolutely 100% correct. The bridge, just get it over with. But at the same time, I just can't imagine that they're not noticing that there are properties that are available to give truckers a place to stay, that's not on the streets, not in the communities. Create a corridor for them immediately. I mean, there seems to be maybe it takes us driving and knowing what properties are available to the port, available to the state, available to the city, a commercial property that is underutilized, and that maybe a developer would like to create a trucking center that is also, that has a hotel,
Well, here's a synergy to work with planning and land use, I think, Jason, right? I think Councilmember McCosker is trying to give us, the community, I mean by us, Wilmington, San Pedro, more say to encourage the port with the 10 million a year they spend on capital projects. This, Gwen's idea seems like a great capital project to put on the list for, 2 years down the road, because my understanding is we kind of have to come up with a good idea, cost it out. But if something like that could be built for $3.54 million, and the community thinks that would really be a help, that seems like it could be, as valuable to the community as the plans for luggage storage or some of the other things we've seen, Jason. But I'm curious what your take.
So what is the facility meant to accomplish? I mean, are we talking about alternative routing, or are you talking about places where people could park their trucks and sleep? I mean, what are we talking about?
I think I've heard Pat and Gwen, correct me, just talk about it would be a place where they could actually, instead of being on the road, a place they could rest and, kind of recharge and not further, go off on our streets and ruin them while they're doing that.
So what we want is a big parking lot, basically.
No, not a parking lot. I mean, I've been traveling California and other states. I've been taking a lot of road trips, and I have to honestly say that a place that is great respite for, it's actually shopping areas for visitors and travelers who are not truckers, but truckers, anybody who's got places for a bite to eat, a car wash, a hotel, a motel.
Oh, wow. This is bigger than I thought. I was envisioning like a rest area type thing, use a restroom, maybe take a shower, but
truckers rest stop, that's a much bigger thing.
I'm talking about, well, it's more than that. Trucking centers. I mean, they're all over California, and they aren't just trucking centers. They are amenable to people to stop, and it may be something where it can be along a corridor, that there are services that the truckers can stay along a corridor that they are being directed towards for safe movement. That's the alternate corridor from the bridge. I do not see trucking going south. I mean, they're still talking about electrifying the commercial fleet. They're still talking about moving and transporting by truck in the future, no matter how large this port gets. That the roads will be utilized, and they still work on that in the transportation and freeway corridors, and anything around the bridge. Something that concerns me is that should there be, God forbid, an earthquake, a human-caused disaster of some sort, you still have to consider that this area needs to continue to be productive and to have outlets and access points for emergency trucks and vehicles to come in. There needs to be additional outlets for people to evacuate, for people to evacuate the area. This is strategically, I mean, this is the dead end peninsula. If there are not additional outlets to get out, you know,
So that sounds like another highway. I mean, that sounds like a different topic, Gwen.
Yeah, but I'd also caution, like looking long term. I mean, we're probably around peak container traffic as traffic from China is being reduced. We're reshoring a lot of stuff. We're building more stuff. And I just see the port's volume not going to be growing. Like, I think somehow we all thought, just like anything else, growth goes forever. I don't think the port's growth is going to keep going forever. So I think that on a side note to that is that a lot of the traffic in and out of the port's probably going to end up being automated for a lot of short haul stuff, to the point where it'll go to centers away from the port property, where those containers will go potentially on the long haul or onto trains or whatever. So I kind of think it's a problem that might be solving itself with time to a large extent.
That'd be important to know too, right? And that, so, just something I know I've heard in this meeting a few times. If we wanted to, look at a proposal, I was thinking it was more modest, some space that could quickly be repurposed. But then, Gwen's idea, if it's more of a trucker center, like I see when I go across the country, then that's just that would be more of a commercial enterprise where I have a Flying J or something, right? Where I'm servicing everyone. So.
Well, there's nothing wrong with that, especially, Jason. It would be a matter of being for that commercial center to also be able to pivot, whatever that commercial center in an industrial area. If there is a pivot where more of the goods will be taken to centers farther away, and that's where the truckers are going to go. If there's more train or internal port transport of some sort to those areas farther away, well, a commercial area would only benefit the people of Wilmington or that commercial corridor. That would turn it into something that is a viable place, that if it does turn into if Wilmington and that entire area turns into strictly residential, and possibly tourism traffic, a commercial center with parking and buildings that could then be pivoted into shopping center or whatever, or another tourist site. Who knows?
That's a pretty long-term endeavor. That's, first of all, think a little bit outside of the charter of this group, but second, something that's going to have to be largely for-profit driven. I don't know how we could really involve ourselves in that kind of
thing. To ask that there be a court, well, they keep talking about, of course, you're going to have another corridor to take the trucks while the bridge is closed. It can't be willy-nilly.
This whole project you're talking about is not going to be within the scope of, while the bridge is closed for, let's say, maximum 2 years. They're not going to stand this thing up in time to make any benefit to that. That's not going to happen. That's not possible. Road improvements along, what is it, Alameda, that whole strip, that should be done. Part of it's been fixed right along Wilmington, but there's part of it that's still pretty horrid once you get a little past downtown Wilmington. That should be improved. But
and that's where, Gwen, if you didn't look at the link I had, click on the link for the SR-47. What Lonnie Walsh's engineering team is doing is trying to streamline, and and if you look at how long it is just to make one change to an on-ramp, how many years that takes, there might be a desire for another corridor, but I don't see how that'll be done. Even though I think the bridge is going to take longer than I want, that just the planning on that wouldn't be done by the time the bridge is fixed. So. That's why, trying to really influence, and I had an opportunity when it came to Dominguez Hills, one of the leaders of the Department of Transportation. I said, hey, I'm not asking for an 8-day fix, but instead of like 18 months, could you try to commit to 8 months, and can you give us better data on exactly, what it's, how, are the work crews working 24 hours? Can you do performance incentives? Like, I'm not convinced that it needs to take that long, and this is going to be very disruptive. But again, if you have an idea that, could be costed and has an environmental or, a community impact for better taking care of the trucks. It could even be a place with electric trucks where they can swap out their, fast charge. I don't know that, let's bring that together, and that could be a planning and land use thing. Keep in mind that there are certain port money that can only be used for capital projects, so we have West Harbor coming, the amphitheater, the outer, and that might make sense, but what Jason's saying, it has to make sense within the realm of what's likely to happen with shipping volume, and then the changing to hopefully greener, moving of the cargo outside of the port. So those are some good ideas to think about to work. Move on to another one that we could talk about a little bit. I've also been asked to have our committee consider drafting a proposal asking that the composition of harbor commissioners should always include at least one member resident of Wilmington and one of San Pedro, and a lot of community dissatisfaction with the removal of well, I guess we've got Leon there, but especially Diane Middleton's kind of surprising removal and replacement has caused people in the community to be concerned. So if there's interest, this is one I'm willing to draw up if there's support amongst others on this committee for us to look at this in October.
I emphatically believe that is a letter that we should be writing.
Okay. And I think others are. So if I catch wind, or Jason, if you see one, unless you're strongly opposed to this, please forward it to me, but I'll be looking for that so we could look to take action on that. Will the mayor listen? Don't know, but I do think we have a duty to share the feelings of our stakeholders. Alta Sea, I got to visit. I don't know if we all got this invite, but I was invited to tour and get an update on what all the companies were doing last week. And it was fascinating. So many great entrepreneurs doing things with the blue economy, using seaweed to create rope and more sustainable things for use there, more sustainable ways to harvest oysters, great ideas on getting energy from the sea and the tides, right? Lots of things that if you get an opportunity, or if you're not on the mailing list, I think all I've done is gone to Alta Sea and said, put me on the email list. Really, really exciting things. So I just wanted to share that and encourage other members and anybody in the public to, keep up to date. Most of these companies are small now, but as they're growing, some have 2 employees, some have 5. Those are going to be some great jobs that relate to our mission, the port, and they're all very environmentally and sustainably, focused so far that I've seen. So I don't think I saw any of you there, but any of you, anything else to see you want to comment on?
I actually went to the soft opening. Sorry. I went to the soft opening of Alta Sea, and all of the what do you call them? Not startups. It's something else. But they were there. The TIAT Society was there, and of course we saw Yolanda at her new opening of Sirens. The coffee shop there.
Yeah.
It's with the partnership with UCLA and USC, it's pretty darn amazing. But yeah, I would hope that we continue to go to all of their events and be very supportive of what's going on over there.
And spread the word to the stakeholders, right? That there might be some jobs that might leave the port due to automation, but there's some new jobs being created, right? So I think that's such an area of hope. And so many of the young people I know are so interested in helping the planet, but you might, tangibly, what will they do? Well, there's going to be some, really good jobs there. So that was good. We've already discussed a little bit of Day of Peace, but it was agendized. So just a reminder, I was hoping some people would join late, some students maybe that want to help us, but that's the 21st, right? So there'll be work to do setting up as early as 8 o'clock. I'll be bringing our Northwest San Pedro pop-up at that time. And I think my daughter got invited to make some giant peace doves. The Girl Scouts are there. My Rotary Club's a part of this. Obviously, our neighborhood council's a part of this. Lots of other groups are a part of it. So I'm excited about Saturday. Anything more to add, Gwen or Jason? Are you planning to attend?
This Saturday,
Yep.
Mhm.
I will be out of town.
Oh,
Alas, this
Is
is a big deal. It's not, it's probably going to be in the news. I would pretty much
oh,
guess that it
yeah.
is. It's a lot. So, I hope that, Jason, you might be able to get 5 friends to go.
Well, but also, set expectations that there are large crowds expected. So like, I'm glad I'm going at 8 because the parking will be gone. It starts at 10, right? So to get even close to it, I need to get there 2 hours early. So plan to find, some way to, to get there, uh, other than parking based on the crowds, but send some friends, definitely. In the Point Furman area.
I may be taking my electric bike.
Oh, that's smart. I need to get one of those.
Uh,
The other thing I shared with Gwen, I think, in planning the agenda, just wanted to share that I became aware of as a professor. There's a group called Pando, and you can go to the link there, that is giving students up to $1,500, right? I think it's just $1,500 to the professor for students to use on environmental projects. They've worked with a lot of LA universities like Northridge or like USC, but they haven't worked with Dominguez Hills yet. So I have some students who are looking, in a couple that live in San Pedro, trying to see if there's a project where they could get 1,500. It's not a lot of money. And if they do, I'd love for them to talk to this group about what they're doing, where they're doing it. Some of the things I've seen done in other parts of LA are just putting a more reflective coating on some pavement, that reduces the heat. And that was really poignant for me. I had a conversation with Eugene, the director, on one of those 100 and some days, right? So we need canopies. We could be taking action to lower the heat. They can also get credit, could do something with our community garden, Gwen, just projects that encourage people to experience nature, right? If you look at the website, there's a lot of variety. So I'm going to leave it up to, they need a nexus, I guess, to be a student, but it could be at LA Harbor, or Dominguez Hills or somewhere, for us to work with them in our community. I just wanted to throw it out there, because some of you,
well,
might be good contacts. If I get somebody who says, oh, and that's what I'm thinking of you with the garden, right? If somebody wants to do something around the garden, I'll just connect them with you, Gwen, saying, hey, let's figure out a way that, with that little bit of money, what could you do to get, more college age students to think about this could be a way to reduce your food insecurity, have a connection with where, you actually get to see where your food comes from versus, eating fast food or something less healthy.
well, we actually do need a compost area, and we need some people to help us to initiate that. The compost, there's a lot of green waste that comes from the garden, and we want to put it to use and possibly be able to give exceptional compost to the community, as well as, I mean, worm composting as well. But maybe even we might be able to create an earning income out of it as well. So yeah, we could definitely use a little infrastructure with that. That would be
Well, I'll mention that idea to see if any students like that one and refer. So who knows? I talked to the guy about a week and a few days ago, but I could see a couple neat projects. Would love to see a few of our students get $1,500 to make our community better.
Hey, Jason, we could use that for, with the Palos Verdes Peninsula Land Conservancy, getting some trees, some tree stock or some shrub stock, and plant it in an area that needs some greenery and has the water well to allow it to survive.
Yeah, maybe we could get a tree in Peck Park. I'm thinking when Diana Nave returns, I want her to know because that might, we've been working on reintroducing the native plant species, and we had a little vandalism on the sign there. Maybe that would be enough for somebody who wanted to add onto that project. Or, I love the idea Jason has of getting a couple trees, right, to actually see a few trees planted if money's the issue. But I'm maybe it's the bureaucracy, right? How do you get permission to plant a tree in that park? I have to talk to Alan or somebody. So that was that update. I put LA Waterfront on there in case anybody wanted to, take action on something about West Harbor, or And if you haven't, I really encourage you to look through the 110-page RFP for the Outer Harbor Cruise Terminal. That's going to have a huge impact on our area. I've already listened to a presentation from one group. It's the group that Joe Boiscano is kind of advising, to hear what their idea is for a terminal, which was, the presentation I saw was pretty eye-opening. I've encouraged them to share it with the public so we can all see what their track record is. And Jason, they also did a planning and land use, right? So you got to see that presentation. What I didn't see is, I don't have a copy of the slide deck. Have you got a copy of that as the chair of that committee?
I don't have a copy of it as a.
But
It's probably somewhere. I could find it. Is
all
it
right.
all that stuff gets, once we have it, once we consume it, it goes on to the Northwest website.
Okay, I didn't look there, and I'm, sometimes they don't follow up. He kind of said that he was going to, and I didn't look to see if that had happened or not.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, that's like, it would probably go to Diana and she would forward it to Christina to be posted. That's
Yeah. And Diana was leaving too, so I'll go look there. But I just wondered if with the changes that was there. But on the other hand, I don't want to, I just wanted to share the information because I understand there's at least one other proposal coming up in October, and there may be 3. So not offering any opinions on which is the best, but
Oh, so there's other proposals for the outer terminal.
my understanding is there is going to be for sure 2 and maybe 3. And Jason, can you correct that? But I think you guys have scheduled another presentation for October.
There is one coming up. Yes.
So there's several. So I guess this is a bid process for a developer.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Okay. And so you want to reserve your comments as to what your thoughts on this particular proposal.
Well, yeah, I didn't want to spend too much time on that, but other than encourage people to try to get the information out to, like, if you hadn't seen it, Gwen, I think, we should all be on the same page and see the same slides. And what I think we all should do is look at the 110-page RFP. And I know in conversations, by having it with me and looking at it, right, I was able to go from what we wish it said to what it actually says, right, and be really realistic in how the board will have to make its decision. And it is largely financial, right? So if one is going to save the taxpayers a lot of money, even though we love the community involvement or other environmental aspects, unless we really can influence the people who are the deciders, it's going to kind of boil down to money. But I do think, that's where we can start doing some work. If we really like this one, we could start, sharing with the community more widely what we really like. But the interesting thing is, and maybe this is great policy, what I was told, Jason, is we don't know who is going to actually do the rating, right? So you don't really know necessarily who to influence. But I think if we let members of the board and the community kind of know if there's one that seems like, oh my gosh, this one would be an ugly structure, there's no thought for improving the environment, and if it saves the city $500,000 a year, it's probably not worth it because it's going to have all these negative effects, that a slightly more expensive one could have. And that's why I don't want to judge, because I liked what I saw. I thought the presentation looked way nicer than I had in my mind. So that's a good thing. But, maybe presenter number 2 will be even better. So that was my thought on that. I did get a notice of preparation mentioned, and sometimes people have letters. The person who normally brings the letters not at the meeting today. So I'm guessing we don't have any action to take on that today. And then animal shelter, I know you've spoken a lot about this, Gwen. I just want to at least agendize it because it is a real crisis. So I'm expecting you have some, there's 2 issues here. Thank you for bringing to my attention. I don't really have a lot to say other than I will note that right below the artificial turf, I did make note of the Mayor Bass is building green infrastructure as a context. So, as you're commenting on artificial turf, in particular, I like the idea of us building towards some sort of statement there, which fits with our prior conversation on the trees too, right? We have these proclamations, but if we never have tangible ways they're implemented, really they're not worth the paper they're written on. But please go ahead with animal shelter, Gwen.
I have not made contact with the animal shelter, but I have made contact with people within Tim's office. They are very well aware of the crisis mode that it's in, and they've been working with the animal shelter. I will have to go and see if there's any movement as to what's going on. Let's see, it's currently an hour and a half after closing. Usually by now we see a report. Hold on a moment. At the end of each day, if you get on the website, there is something called the dog occupancy meter. And at one point it was in the deep red. I don't know if you can see. Oh, I don't know if that.
I can let you, oh, I don't know if you can share a screen or not. Oh, yeah, that's way in the red. I can see that.
Yeah, but it's been up to 209%. Right now it's 181% of capacity, which is pretty much double. And that is all the animal shelters. They do not actually divide it out to let you know that how many is in the West LA shelter versus the Harbor shelter. But from what I gather, the Harbor shelter is one of the more capacity shelters, one that is in the higher capacity. There's no way to parsec it out just from this data. I'll see if there is a way to find out what's happening here. But today, 8 dogs were added to the population. 59 went in, 51 went out. People are adopting as quickly as possible. In fact, a friend of mine did adopt one in the last month. It's just the same budgetary problems that I just mentioned before, where Karen Bass had shut down all open jobs. The animal shelter, supposedly the animal shelter is one of those departments that, because it works with sentient beings, that there should not be a closure of open positions, that all available positions should be left open for hiring when they find somebody who wants to fill that job. But what's been happening is, I guess, from what I understand, jobs were open because people just did not want to take them. And the people that have been hired on an occasion are people with absolutely no experience with animals. So the learning curve is one, and the training curve is one that is much higher, much greater. People who don't have just the natural innate living experience of having had an animal. And so that creates tremendous difficulties right there. So between that and the state of the actual supervisor at the shelter, I haven't heard any more about her health and her progress. And the morale over there. But we can pretty much say that almost 200% capacity is still way above and beyond. And the goals that of trying to get people to adopt, trying to spay and neuter, the spay and neuter program is absolutely the most critical. Getting people to spay and neuter, getting people to stop. And the economic situation, I don't know, people are releasing their animals, and there doesn't seem to be any data on the real whys and wheres of why that's happening. It seems to be, there are a lot of, maybe that's where we need to ask for a letter for more data to be collected, and also try to see if the homeless population is releasing animals, or if they're somehow, if more people are ending up having to release it because of housing and housing insecurity. I don't know. Those are some of the things.
Okay, thank you. And yeah, I think a letter of that type would be very welcome. All right, and artificial turf, anything more you wanted to add on that? I know we started out with a little bit of conversation on that, but or any questions?
Well, the letter that I brought forward, Jason, I don't know if you got an opportunity to look at it. Well, let me preface by saying, in this last heat wave, The schools, the LAUSD schools, many of them have AstroTurf. They have those artificial, the artificial lawns. And across Los Angeles, all of those places, all of those fields for exercise, they had to shut them down because the heat on that artificial turf is higher than, of course, natural grass. They actually had to water the AstroTurf in order to cool it down because it was so hot. Its reflectivity, its increase in the heat island effect, urban
Yeah.
heat island effect.
There's nothing. Yeah, I mean, I've seen a lot of this stuff before.
Yeah.
I agree, totally opposed to artificial turf. We should not be giving credit to people pulling out their lawns and putting this crap in. That should be replaced with, if they want to get credit for removing a lawn, it shouldn't be with plastic. It should be with some sort of climate appropriate desert type of, landscaping.
Xeriscaping, yeah, xeriscaping, and even in the coastal areas, there are, I mean, desert areas everywhere. There's plants that they remain green, they bloom. There are blooming plants right now at this moment in desert areas because that's what they were. They provide blooms through different periods, different parts of the season, and there's always a handoff. Some in the spring, some in the fall, some in the winter. So, yeah. Thank you. So I don't know if we can support this. The Community Forestry Advisory Committee voted to support the same letter. I believe that we should have a corresponding letter to talk about some of our local concerns with AstroTurf. Tom and I have discussed very specifically the field in which Tim McOsker had his swearing in ceremony right there in Wilmington. We took a look at the AstroTurf right there, and all of the little black flecks that were aiming right for the storm drain. So that right there, we're part of a coastal community, and all of that material, the PFAS, goes straight into the drain. There's no way to filter that. So I don't know if we can. I am going to volunteer to write a letter to correspond with that, to give to Tim McOsker, to talk about specific projects that could be changed.
Yeah, no, if that's the approach you want, like one thing we could do today, because we have the letter in front of us, so it's in the packet, we could just vote on this letter to just replace the, who it's from, right? And just change it to the vote on the text, so we would send the text and get that done today.
Yes, many neighborhood councils have signed on to this same letter. Yes.
So that's one option, but if you want to delay and you want to make it more specific, then we could bring that back. But we could do both. So, it's up to you. It's your idea. But
I say we sign on to this letter, and then but address it to more specifically to Karen Bass, to Tim McOsker.
Yeah, so that I think we can do. So you're proposing we take the text of this and we send it to the mayor and we send it to our council member, and then it obviously we'll send it, it has to go up to our stakeholder group for their blessing. But as a committee, I can ask put this on the next agenda. If you have a Word document, you probably don't, so I can figure out a way to. I'm just trying to avoid having to retype it all myself, but I'll try to find some optical character text thing.
Actually, I know Terry, and I know that, and she can probably give me the workable one.
Okay, yeah, if you have an editable one, but let's just see if it has a second from Jason.
Second.
Okay, so you're moving second. Any other discussion?
If you believe that we would get better buy-in and better support from our fellow board members if we personalize it, and perhaps I should do that.
We probably would, if it's rushed, we might lose there, but I don't know how urgent it is to get this off. So if instead you want to table this, we could do a motion to table. So what, Jason, what's your thought? I've seen some of these fail in the wider group because they aren't customized. I know there are some opponents, but I'm not sure that'd be enough to, I don't think it would get passed universally as it is, but I don't know that it would fail.
I mean, you think it needs more wordsmithing and
I-
same word personal, localized?
Sorry, I believe that I would like to, that the direction should be send this letter, but have a cover letter with it. That this is a letter that has been supported by, and clearly the list of supporting people, and I would like to include CFAC on that. And but we here in CD15 within Northwest San Pedro, we would like to bring your attention to very specific places and locations where AstroTurf is being utilized. And we believe it's an environmental justice issue. Watts has many schools. This is what occurred in the last heat wave, those kind of things. And have it as a cover letter with this letter saying we support this letter. But these are the things that we would like you to attend to and be aware of in CD15 that could.
So if there's additional text, then I would say we should table it and bring it up at the next meeting. So that's your preference then to get everything together and make a stronger case in October?
Sure, let's do that.
Okay. And any objection to tabling?
Nope, no objection.
Okay, then I'll move back to the agenda on the screen here. But thank you for the work on that, Gwen, and please feel free, like if you have a draft in between, I'm happy to, I think we can correspond to people, at a time. I can, correspond on language to get it ready, for the next agenda. So I'm very happy to get stuff emailed to me. All right, and then I just listed a couple council files, trying to be more like some other committees in case folks had anything they wanted to talk about. I thought water conservation rebate tax, and seeing McCosker was named as an author.
Did we talk about the green? I think you had one item on there still.
Oh, okay, yeah, no, let's
yeah.
not go past that. Yeah, anybody have any comments on Mayor Bass's building green infrastructure?
I don't know the details of what this is going to be, but this could be another, speaking of green, getting some tree canopy in is something that's totally doable by 2028. We could plant some largest trees on various routes and thoroughfares and medians and things.
Now, sorry.
That doesn't require a massive, planning of green infrastructure. Could be, you could take that to mean electric trains and cars, things like this. It'd take a lot more environmental review, but getting trees planted is pretty quick if someone lights a fire.
Well, yeah, we do need to find out if her definition of green infrastructure means that sustainable transportation, bicycle corridors, things like that, or if it also includes green spaces. And if it doesn't include green spaces, we should urge that is the case. Now, here in CD15, for example, and I've mentioned this before to various representatives, that in 1924, the Avalon corridor was planted with palm trees for the Olympics. And it would be really, really great if the green infrastructure that they're talking about, if they would consider for Avalon, for the revitalization of Avalon Boulevard, that they open up the tree wells. That would be green infrastructure, opening up the tree wells. And that is part of what that grant was for, that the council member and the community up in West LA had gotten, was to open up the wells in order to support native plants. So maybe we could add to that and say we very much want to see this, and within CD15 we would like this portion of that kind of.
Yeah, let's see what's in it. I until we see what's in it, we probably can't make too many detailed comments. But just as a general concept, I think it's a good plan, what you're stating. Also, it's further because there's going to be some Olympic activities in this area. It seems like we could identify some places that will at least be exposed to the Olympic traffic, and we could possibly get some of those areas identified for greening. So we'll obviously need to review this, but let's keep an eye on it.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I didn't have anything to share text wise, but as we get more details.
I'll just make one small comment. I recently saw a study that Medellin, Colombia, by putting in a substantial amount of green canopy, dropped like the average temperature in the city like several degrees, like a noticeable improvement. That study came out earlier this year, probably easy to find. I think I sent it to Diana and Pat for planning and land use, but should have sent it to this group too.
Yes, it is. That's the average temperature of different areas. I would say the wealthier areas that can that maintain their tree canopy and grow trees on their own private property. The temperature readings are significantly different. I mean, that's clear scientific, and it's fantastic that there's a city that has done that. And it's just as if there's a will, there's a way.
They did it on a very big scale. I mean, I'll have to find the report and share it. It's pretty interesting.
Fantastic. And actually, I would like to take that to the CFAC committee.
Yeah. All right, any comments on the council files, that I listed? That's one of the things I get a note every week saying, hey, here's what they did. I tried to pick ones that seemed relevant to environment or board. These were more environmental ones with, sewer charge rates. I will add context to this that I went to 2.5 hours of the 3-hour LA budget meeting where they went through the budget. And one of the big takeaways for me was that according to the city officials or experts in their report, there's 2 areas where the amount of funding that they're taking in is not enough to provide the service. So one is city lights, and that's probably due to the copper thefts and all the replacement. So there may be an upcoming city fee, be paid via property tax to cover that. And then the other one is that the waste services is running at a pretty significant loss and has for some time. So, in terms of context of some of these things like trees or things we want. And then I appreciate Gwen sharing how they just all the open positions were closed. So if there were groups like forestry that, they'll be permanently underfunded. So, as we start going through these things, I'm trying to educate myself on the two steps, right? What do we want policy wise, but kind of what I learned working with the legislators today, and then how will it be funded, right? How can we come up with a mechanism so they can actually have the ability to make some of the improvements we want?
We have a real deficit. When I mentioned that the cycle of trimming trees and tree maintenance is so bad, and it has, the reports are very bleak. They're really, the trees should be on a 1-year cycle, and they just aren't. And really honestly, the consequence is tree loss. It really is. It's the loss of our tree canopy. And when we talk about planting more trees, we have to get community buy-in at this point. And when we talk about all of the different services that are running with, they're all understaffed. I mean, everybody is taxed. It's absolutely tremendous. I would like to know, actually, the city of Medellin, whether there was a community participation movement within that. How much of it was funded by the city and how much of it was community participation? And was the rainfall enough to make those things grow? Or was there something alternative? Once again, the the CFAC committee has identified and tried to add to the list of trees for developers to plant are native trees that once the roots are established, they thrive with the current rainfall. There's no more need for planting. But the problem is that our wells, our spaces for green plantings are meager at best and poor. And there does need to be a certain amount of street infrastructure changes in order to accommodate water flowing into these swales and providing the support to help cool the communities. Thank you. Sorry.
Mhm. All right, well, with that, we've covered some ideas for the coming year. Anything else we want to cover before we're close to 8 o'clock, which should be our targeted adjourning time? Thank you for the almost hour and a half you've already given to the meeting, but any other ideas before we have a motion to adjourn?
I think that the last council file, the eliminating parking enforcement programs might be something for review for public safety, and I'll alert them.
Mhm.
Something they may want to take up. But I will honestly say we were kind of talking about that before offline.
Yeah.
So this will allow peace officers more freedom to remove vehicles, problem vehicles. I do know that right now, because of the lack of parking enforcement, we've got double and triple parking and blockages of the street. Our street is very minimal. It's actually a dead end street. So it's not like somebody, like all of traffic is being jammed up because of it, but it's kind of a free for all. It's turning into a free for all everywhere. Everybody knows that they aren't going to get a ticket. So I don't know.
Anything from you, Jason?
A motion to adjourn.
Okay.
I will second that.
All right, well, good seeing you all. I will say at the end that Craig Goldfarb is excused. You might have noticed me looking away from the camera. He texted me, and so it was during the meeting. So he will. I'm going to amend the beginning to say he was excused when we do the minutes for this meeting, and then Pat Ney was already excused. So appreciate the stakeholders, commitment to everything, and looking forward to. I hope by October we've got actually a couple of letters, a couple of motions that we can prepare to move forward. And, we continue to try to encourage members of the public to come to these meetings. It was my hope that being virtual would actually increase in attendance by the public. Everything was posted on time, even with the corrections. So I don't know what else to do to get people to come and participate, but if you have ideas on that, that's one of my concerns. I want our committees to be effective. There was the thought that if we merge two committees, that would be helpful. And thank you for coming. So we have a quorum. We've met that goal, but I really think the wider goal, right, is that we have lots of public members giving their ideas, and I think we'll come with a better product and more success if we have more people attending. So I'm all ears. But motion to adjourn, I shouldn't have said all that. Those are just my thoughts. I'm going to hit the stop recording button over here.
Thank you.
Meeting. All right. Thank you.